Everybody, some Social Security beneficiaries can expect a higher benefit increase very soon. And the Biden administration has just announced some big news about the fourth stimulus payments.
Enthusiasm that is out there for the president's package, his vision for our country, building the infrastructure in a bipartisan bill to do that. Many of us are having our town meetings, our public events in our own regions, and the response has just been so optimistic about how these resources to build the infrastructure in a way that brings equity, fairness, justice to it all, in a green way that protects the environment, and that, again, creates good-paying union jobs, jobs that, again, protect the planet as we promote jobs, as we move commerce, as we get people safely to and from school and work without staying in the cars a long time, so it improves the quality of life. So that's where the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better, enhances all of that. So we're very eager, very proud of that work. I think that there's an agreement that can be made, and I look forward to.
Thank you, Senator Burr. You heard some concerns about the child care plan, which is part of the BBB, and you might ask yourself, why is it that it's got all these problems? And I'm going to talk about the process. The question is the right way to write legislation having a few people in one party only sit down and write something themselves without any input from the other party, without hearings, without the back and forth between the two houses with Republicans and Democrats working together? Is that the right way to get a piece of legislation done, which affects, in this case, a pretty darn important thing, our children and raising our kids? Now, we've looked at what the Democrats have put together by themselves and have pointed out some of the flaws in it, some real problems. But the heart of the problem is that they haven't been willing to work on a bipartisan basis to see if we couldn't come up with something better, something that would be acceptable to both parties, such that if down the road the Republican Party happens to be in charge, we might not just throw what they have out and move to an entirely different program. Now, you might say, Republicans don't care about this. Actually, we do. You may not have noticed, but early on, it's up there. Somehow it appeared. Early on, I put out a plan that was able to provide monthly checks for each child, and up to 5 children per household. It was entirely paid for. And I'm not going to go through all the details, but this is designed not to say that it's necessarily better than the Biden plan. I think it is, but
It's that student loan borrowers will have to make student loan payments again after a nearly 2-year pause. For nearly 2 years, most student loan borrowers have been spared the obligation of making payments based on our balances, and their interest rate has also been frozen. And for the millions of people in default, the collection calls have stopped. According to the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, that officially ends February. As the Biden administration had promised, the payment process will restart for 41 million Americans in the month of February. According to White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, some borrowers have been hoping the pause on payments be extended. There is precedent. Both the former president and Biden's administration previously had extended the moratorium weeks before payments were expected to resume. As recently as Wednesday, top progressive Democrats have asked Biden to issue another extension, citing the economy and uncertainty around the ongoing crisis. But the administration has long broadcast its plan to resume payments on February 1st. The Education Department said a smooth transition back into repayment remains a high priority for the Biden administration. So while payments were paused, the nation's $1.7 trillion student loan debt portfolio kept growing. Progressive lawmakers have been pushing Biden to use executive orders to forgive student loan debt, and critics of loan forgiveness, however, say such a move would be a one-time solution and disproportionately benefit those with higher wages and loan balances. The Education Department has said borrowers will receive some form of notice at least 21 days before the first payment is due, and borrowers can contact their loan servicer for the exact date that the payments restart. Now, those seeking relief from student loan payments, for instance, because they don't think they can afford them, will likely have to rely on one of the government's income-based repayment programs. The federal government has already started informing borrowers about the income-based repayment plans available to them. In a statement, the Education Department also said it had been working with services to ensure that they're ready to help borrowers when payments restart. The Biden administration is expected to release more information about repayment steps in the coming weeks, but it's unlikely to include new information about widespread student loan forgiveness. Biden said he is in favor of raising up to $10,000 in loans per borrower, though some progressive lawmakers want that figure at $50,000 instead. And now every year, Social Security has an upward trend that is normal for all citizens. For example, seniors will get a boost to their monthly benefits in 2022. As far as Social Security COLA adjustments, they are generally based on the Consumer Price Index third quarter data. Inflation was impressive during the last quarter, and seniors are getting a 5.9% increase in COLA in 2022. That's as a result of this, and by far the most impressive raise that happened in decades. These benefits can be claimed between the ages of 62 and 70. Estimations from the SSA confirmed that after 2022 COLAs go into effect, monthly benefits will see an average increase from around $1,500 to around $1,700. Regular seniors will see a raise of up to $92 in their benefits, and the crisis placed the spotlight on the importance of Social Security and what it means to older Americans, who are among the hardest hit during these last 21 months. It's one of the reasons why Congress needs to enact and enhance the program. Now, the House Representative John Larson reintroduced legislation that he's been working on for years. It's called the Social Security 2100 Act, and had a hearing for the proposal in December. It will face a markup by Congress in the new year. Another Social Security proposal, introduced by the representative earlier this month, also attempts to fix and improve the program. The bill, if passed, has numerous provisions to improve Social Security, which is currently facing insolvency. Thank you again for your support, everybody. If you have any more questions about the fourth stimulus check, then be sure to leave them in the comments below.
Well, thanks, Richard. My colleagues have said it really well, but fewer options and higher costs. That's what you're going to get with the Democrats' toddler takeover. This assumption that Washington knows best about everything and that the best thing that the American people and parents and families can do is just shift and consolidate and centralize power and control in Washington, D.C., because Washington knows best. That's the approach the Democrats are taking with this partisan spending bill, which is overhauling programs that have enjoyed bipartisan support in the past and for which there are much better solutions that reflect the views of parents across this country and take into consideration what state and local governments are doing in terms of their decisions about child care in this country. But instead, the Washington Democrats have this, we'll just take everything, all the power, all the control, all the decisions about who's eligible, about what the quality of care will be in some of these places. All those decisions now would go and move to Washington, D.C.